Hey, I'm Blair Best, and tonight on The Story, we begin inside a metal recycling facility in Northwest Portland. Theft of metals like copper here behind me have been on the rise recently for some businesses. What they're doing now to increase security and why these metals are so valuable. It's our big story tonight.
This is pretty much our copper stash.
Inside this Portland recycling plant, each strand of metal matters. And what are we looking at here?
So luckily, this is what they're trying to go steal.
Theft of metals like copper have been on the rise in Portland. Where would someone find this?
So this is typically inside of wire.
James Corey at Calbag Metals, where people drop off scraps for cash, knows exactly what to look for.
So it's a real thing for us. We do see suspicions daily.
Typically, recycled metals are unmarked, making it hard to tell if it's stolen.
A lot of times it'll be either car parts or something you can tell is made directly from a manufacturer, and you can tell it was taken from their yard or somewhere. It's typically a place of business.
Right now, copper is worth about $4 a pound.
You've got over 300 pounds on the scale there. So, you could be looking at something that's in the neighborhood of $1,200.
We don't want to be caught up buying stolen material from anyone, and it's just a liability and a risk.
And these are wires and things that are easy for people to steal.
Yeah, I mean, wires that you can find anywhere there's electricity.
Something Dan Chasen knows all too well.
I eat it, drink it, sleep it 24 hours a day.
Dan oversees theft and vandalism at CenturyLink.
So there's an uptick in the amount of damage that's being done that's affecting many parts of our day-to-day lives.
He says people are cutting CenturyLink cables, like what the man in this video was apparently trying to do in Washington.
Get the f*** out of there!
And stealing the copper from inside the rubber casing, which looks like this.
The strand size of the copper will actually matter.
Washington and Oregon are the leading states in the country for this type of theft, according to CenturyLink data. So far this year, it's happened more than 370 times to the company's cables in Washington. In Oregon, more than 140 times this year, compared to 79 incidents last year.
It is a direct attack on critical infrastructure.
These images from CenturyLink show recent damaged wires in Oregon. Every time a cable is cut, there's a service outage, affecting anywhere from just 10 to 100,000 customers.
When that service is disrupted, it can affect public safety. It can affect grandma who lives way in the back of nowhere, and she falls and breaks her hip and can't call 911. It affects police services, fire, medical. It affects all of it. My fear is at this rate, eventually it's going to cause a death, not contribute to it. It's going to cause a death because someone can't get help.
And the lengths some criminals will go for the valuable metal, he says, are endless.
Well, it's driven by a couple of facts. The factors that address it most is the availability or the ease in which they can sell it. How can I make a profit on it? Some of this is narcotics driven. A large majority of it is by groups of people who are looking for a way to get their next fix.
I've been doing it for quite some time.
For John, who's homeless in Northwest Portland, finding metal scraps,
You take the outside coating off.
has helped him get by. For the past 40 years, he says he's spent on the streets.
All kinds of cigarettes, food, ride the bus, loan it to people.
Strands of coiled copper lay around John's camp.
This is from a dumpster, just like down the way actually. Clean it during the day, and I usually find it at night. From motors, it's the windings inside the motor. So I mean, it's a serious task.
Back at Calbag Metals, right down the street from John's tent.
We're not going to accept material that's stolen.
State law requires them to wait 3 days to reimburse people for metal, giving them time to try and trace its origin. They also require ID.
I don't have ID, so I don't really turn it in that often.
How do you get the money for it then?
I have other people turn it in.
Furthering security measures, CenturyLink is now moving away from copper, turning to less profitable materials instead, and adding GPS trackers to cables in problem areas like Portland.
We can't stop it alone. The police can't stop it alone. If you see something, say something.
Now, those at CenturyLink tell me this is much bigger than people just trying to earn a buck and a few customers being without services. These outages can have sprawling impacts. For example, one cable cut recently in Tacoma, Washington, shut down the Port of Tacoma, the prison, and the hospital with just one cut from someone searching for copper, they say. Wire repairs in the last year have cost CenturyLink more than $8 million nationwide. And there's only so much CenturyLink can do, so they're leaning on local law enforcement. Officers in King County, Washington have partnered with neighboring police agencies to try and catch the criminals there. And here in Oregon, the Portland Police East Neighborhood Response Team has also been working with CenturyLink since July. A spokesperson for Portland Police tells me on July 31st, officers arrested a 35-year-old man in the process of cutting CenturyLink wire and stealing the copper near 102nd Avenue in I-84, not far from the Gateway Shopping Center. Officers connected that same man to another incident in early July. He faces several charges, including burglary and theft. Okay, talk to us. Maybe you've seen this happen in your neighborhood, or maybe you've experienced an outage because of it. Let us know. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Let's head to the Dalles now, where today, Oregon's only Republican member of Congress, Representative Cliff Bentz, faced angry protesters over federal spending cuts to programs like Medicaid and SNAP under the Big Beautiful Bill. The congressman is standing by his yes vote on the bill, pushing back against Governor Tina Kotek's criticism. He says the bill will slow unchecked spending and add accountability for states. Evan Watson sat down with Bentz today.
You're not listening to your voters.
Hold the town hall. Protesters telling Representative Cliff Bentz what they think of his vote for the Big Beautiful Bill. Some voters calling for Bentz's job, saying he's failing to check President Trump's power.
A lot of frustration. I wanted to be here in case we could see him and say to his face, you're failing us and you're not doing your job.
Representative Bentz at a Rotary Club meeting in the Dalles explained his support for the bill.
People are on Medicaid that are making too much money to be on Medicaid.
He answered critical questions about federal spending, threats to rural hospitals, assistance for farmers, and cuts for public broadcasting. KGW sat down with Bentz after the meeting, who explained his support for expanded work requirements for Medicaid and food stamps.
They're both essential programs, and it needs to be understood that I support those programs, but I don't support sloppy operation of the programs. $1 trillion a year for Medicaid. This year, I think it's $850 billion, somewhere in that neighborhood, and it's growing so rapidly. We can't allow free riders to be on this program. Folks that shouldn't be on it should be helping pay for their insurance, just like so many other people do.
Town hall! Town hall!
Kelly McCune says she's always calling Bentz's office.
I actually think we should take care of our fellow Americans, not just abandon them.
Bentz welcoming the criticism.
I'm happy for those people being there, and that's because this is America, and you should have every right to make your point heard. And protesting is as old as this country. And so good on them for getting out there and saying what they think.
Bentz is in the Dalles working on his Watershed Development Act, a bill that would transfer land from the U.S. Forest Service to the city of the Dalles to expand the city's water supply. We'll have more from our interview with Bentz on federal spending cuts and other areas Thursday on KGW. Evan Watson reporting.
Now let's talk about immigration and Oregon's sanctuary laws. This week, Marion County sued Governor Tina Kotek, the Department of Homeland Security, and the director of ICE, which sounds like a huge deal. But in fact, the lawsuit is really seeking clarity on whether the county should follow state or federal law when it comes to immigration enforcement. Here's what happened. Earlier this month, the county received immigration enforcement subpoenas from ICE looking for information on 4 alleged undocumented people currently on parole for serious crimes. 2 are registered sex offenders convicted of rape. The 3rd person is convicted of sex abuse crimes, and the 4th is someone convicted of kidnapping and robbery. Now, each subpoena asked for things like addresses, phone numbers, employers, and personal information like date of birth. Marion County says they collected the information, all of which are public records. That would be available to anyone who makes a public records request. But before they do anything with that information, they want clarity from the courts. The lawsuit claims Oregon's sanctuary law has internal inconsistencies and conflicts with federal law in the state's public records laws on whether they're allowed to give the information to ICE. If they don't give it to ICE, they could be sued by the U.S. Department of Justice or lose federal funding. If they do give it to ICE, they could be sued by the Oregon Attorney General or advocacy groups. Marion County Chair Danielle Bethel wrote, "Obviously, we want to keep dangerous people out of our community and off of our streets. Marion County has to follow both federal and state laws, and there's a serious lack of clarity that the courts need to figure out. Marion County is committed to prosecuting and holding accountable all people who commit crimes, regardless of their immigration status." In fact, before filing the lawsuit, the county says they got in touch with the state and the feds asking for their help in sorting this out. After those requests, the county says, quote, "ambiguity remains." And it's not like this is a one-off. In fact, Marion County has reported more requests from federal immigration authorities in the past year than any other Oregon county. From June of last year to the end of May this year, Oregon's Criminal Justice Commission's got 95 submissions from public bodies in Oregon detailing requests for communications from federal immigration enforcement. That's a 265% increase from the time period a year before. Okay, as you can see, Marion County has far and away the most between the jail and the sheriff's office, 38 of the 95 reports, representing 40%. Okay, before we move on, I want to highlight part of the lawsuit where the county is making its case for a judge to tell them what to do. They say if an employee of another state made a public records request for the information the feds want, even if they said it was for immigration enforcement, the state's public records law would require the county to hand it over. They go on, if an employee of a foreign country did that, same thing. If a private citizen did that, they would hand it over. If a terrorist asked for the records, the county would give it to them. If the ICE agents, in this case, filed a public records request, but did so as private citizens and not on behalf of a federal agency, they would hand it over. So for now, it appears the county will just wait on a judge to decide what to do next, though it appears that either way, there could be consequences. They'll just have to have a judge's order to lean on to defend the county's interests. Okay, coming up next on the story. While we're on the topic of immigration enforcement, we'll hear from a Washington woman who was held in ICE detention for 3 weeks after getting stopped at the U.S.-Canada border. What it was like inside an ICE facility in Texas. That's when the story returns. As stories about immigration and ICE arrests have become a weekly, if not daily, occurrence at this point, the recent detainment of a New Zealand mom and her 6-year-old son has made headlines here in the Northwest. They were stopped at the U.S.-Canada border when trying to return home to Everett, Washington. Her attorney says a paperwork error caused an issue with her visa, but they were not sent to the ICE facility in Tacoma like so many others are. They were flown all the way to Texas, where they stayed for 3 weeks before recently returning home to Washington. Sharon Yu has the story.
One telephone to share among 12 people, one TV to share among 60. That's what Sarah Shaw says was her experience at the South Texas Family Residential Center near San Antonio, where she spent the last 3 weeks. When Sarah Shaw crossed over to Vancouver, BC in July to send 2 of her 3 children to New Zealand, she didn't think she'd have an issue returning home to Everett.
I spoke to my attorney about it, and she kind of said, like, you'll be fine, your paperwork's like all valid. So she was kind of like, that would be like worst case scenario, but I really kind of didn't think that was going to happen.
ICE agents detained Sarah and her 6-year-old son Isaac at the border. They were flown to the South Texas Family Residential Center.
That was their reason for not releasing him, was like they didn't want to separate the family.
Shaw says her time at the center was lonely.
I was like the minority in that situation. Most of the people that were there spoke Spanish.
And privacy was hard to come by.
If I needed to go to the bathroom, Isaac was there yelling at me outside the stall. If I wanted to take a shower, he had to come with me. So it was like we were like completely like joined to the hip.
When she finally got out, ICE released her without any of her documents and an ankle monitor. Sarah has no criminal history. ICE officials also dropped her off in Laredo, Texas, a 2.5-hour drive away from the San Antonio airport where she and Isaac needed to be for their flight home.
And the only reason she made it was because there was 2 delays.
For now, she's glad she and her son are back in Washington under the care of her best friend, Victoria. Did you think that Victoria would be responsible for basically bringing you home?
I mean, I'm not surprised, but but no, I didn't think she was gonna do as much as she did. But yes, she did a great job.
Sarah says she has a few court appearances to make before she can put this behind her. She's now working with her attorney to get her ankle monitor removed. She's also in contact with the New Zealand embassy to try and get her documents back, since ICE did not give them back when she was released. Customs and Border Protection said in a statement, when someone with an expired parole leaves the country and tries to re-enter the U.S., they will be stopped in compliance with our laws and regulations. If they are accompanied by a minor, CBP will follow all protocols to keep families together or arrange care with a legal guardian. Okay, we are just over a week away from Oregon's special legislative session when lawmakers will convene in Salem to hash out transportation funding. And this is the starting point they'll be working off of. The governor's plan to avoid nearly 500 looming ODOT layoffs and stabilize the state's transportation funding system. If lawmakers can't accomplish anything on Friday, the 29th, those layoffs will begin in the middle of next month, and 12 maintenance facilities across the state will close. Then a second round of layoffs would begin in January. Exact numbers for that round of pink slips have not been released. We'll get to details of the governor's plan in just a moment. But this week we learned that you at home will have a chance to weigh in. A public hearing is scheduled for Monday, the 25th at 3 o'clock in front of the Joint Interim Committee on Transportation Funding. If you can't make it in person to Salem, it will be live streamed and people can sign up to testify virtually as well. Now, this public hearing is especially noteworthy because earlier this month, when we talked to Republican Representative Christine Drazen, she blasted the fact that at the time, no public hearing was scheduled. She said keeping Oregonians out of the process wasn't right. She even left the door open for a potential GOP walkout if the public didn't get to have a say. Well, now they do. But let's get back to the governor's plan and how it would affect you. Here's a chart with a look at most of the fee hikes that would kick in January 1st if the plan is approved as is. The gas tax would go up by 6 cents. Registration fees across the board would increase by $42, and you'll notice there are $30 registration surcharge increases for fuel-efficient vehicles and EVs.
Title fees are seeing a massive jump, up nearly $140 on the base fee alone. And then there's the payroll tax that comes out of your paycheck. The proposal would double that from 0.1% to 0.2%. That money would help fund transit districts across the state. Now, the pay per mile program, or road user charge, as lawmakers call it, would be mandatory for some drivers starting in summer 2027. Existing electric vehicles would be first that summer, then new EVs in January of 2028. And then in the summer of 28, hybrid and plug-in hybrids would have to enroll in the program, which is meant to supplement gas tax revenues since EVs don't pay gas taxes. Okay, once you're enrolled, you would not have to pay extra registration fees for EVs. Now, one detail that we learned today regarding that pay per mile plan is that if you have privacy concerns regarding the state knowing how much you're driving each year, if you would rather not report that, they will allow you to pay a flat annual fee of $340 instead. The proposal also includes many ODOT accountability measures, including regular audits of the agency, and giving the governor the power to hire and fire the ODOT director. We'll be watching both on Monday during the public hearing and next Friday for that special session. Well, coming up next on the story, there is new technology being tested here in the Northwest, meant to keep drunk drivers off the roads. We'll show you how it works and the bugs in the system that are still being worked out. That's when the story returns. Well, for years, seatbelts were an option for cars, but Congress and automakers decided mandating them would be a life-saving idea. But now Washington is one of a few states testing new technology designed to keep drunk drivers off the road. Drew Mickelson got a look at the DUI detection device that could be installed in your next car.
It's designed to be subtle. You hardly notice it tucked in there behind the steering wheel.
As I blow towards it, you'll see the blue lights mean that it's measuring, and if I'm below the limit, I'll get green, which means I'm good to go.
Test cars equipped with the Driver Alcohol Detection System for Safety, or DADS for short, will not let someone who has had too much to drink go anywhere.
They could let the driver start the car but not put it into drive. That way they'll have access to heat, air conditioning, power, if they need to call somebody to come pick them up or while they're waiting to sober up.
The DAD sensor uses infrared light to analyze the potential driver's breath.
Carbon dioxide and alcohol molecules absorb different amounts of light, and the sensor can compare the two, making it easy to measure alcohol levels precisely.
I think this technology will save 10,000 lives a year in the U.S. when it becomes mandatory.
As director of the state's Traffic Safety Commission, it's Shelley Baldwin's job to find ways to reduce the number of deadly crashes in the state. With impaired drivers linked to 1/3 of the state's fatalities, she says the state was eager to partner with the DADS developers.
Cars are part of the problem, and cars can be part of the solution.
Of the thousands of tests we've done, we need to do millions of tests.
If testing goes well in Washington and 4 other partner states, the devices could be an option for car buyers in 2028.
I hope that by the time my kids are driving, this is something that's normal for them and their friends. All their cars will have it.
Now, it's worth noting there are still kinks to work out with this tech. Some mouthwashes and hand sanitizers have given false positives, preventing sober drivers from putting the vehicles in drive. But that's why developers say all this testing in places like Washington is needed. Okay, that's the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. The good stuff is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. Have a great Wednesday night. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.